Welcome to the most accurate, most electrifying, and most honest NFL power rankings on the internet. The final power rankings of the 2025 NFL regular season. Welcome to the ladies, the gentlemen, and even the jabronis. It's Mitch here with my ranking of every NFL team entering the final week of the NFL regular season, week 18. Ranking every team from the worst to the best. Number 32 to number 1. Who is the best team in the NFL? Gronk, spike the like button if you're ready for the most entertaining, electrifying, and brutally honest power rankings. And let me know in the comments where I'm right and where I'm wrong, where I'm correct and where I'm simply crazy. Let's get started with the worst team in the NFL. At number 32, the New York Jets. The Jets are at number 32. After watching them at home against a division rival lay down and take an absolute pounding by the New England Patriots. Honestly, I may have never seen a game that looked like a professional team against a JV college football team. I mean, it looked like professionals, grown men against high schoolers. It looked like grown men against kids. I have never seen a game quite like that in my life. Drake May couldn't have thrown an incompletion if he tried. The Patriots ran the ball. They punished the Jets' offensive line and sacked Brady Cook. It was simply a beatdown that I think is fireable if you're Aaron Glenn. I mean, downright disgusting performance by an NFL team. I'm not even being hyperbolic. I'm not exaggerating, guys. That was one of the biggest butt kickings that I have ever seen. Do you see my eyes right now? Like, this is honest. That was truly embarrassing how quickly that game became out of hand. How egregiously that game was played by the Jets. They are the worst team in the league. They have the worst quarterback, the worst coach, maybe the worst defense, the worst receiving core. They're terrible. And they are probably not even going to have the number 1 pick. At number 31, the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the difference between the Jets and the Raiders is that at least with the Raiders, they're trying to lose. With the New York Jets, they simply have no talent or no coaching. The Raiders are on purposely putting Brock Bowers and Max Crosby on IR and not letting them participate in the game. And they're telling Pete Carroll to lie down and play dead. That's what Tom Brady and Spy Tech are doing in the front office. That's what Mark Davis with his awful haircut is doing. The Raiders, no one would have ever expected them to be this bad this season. This was supposed to be a near playoff campaign type of deal. We had analysts on mainstream media picking the Raiders to go to the playoffs over the Broncos and the Chargers. And they are arguably the worst team in the league, and they will probably have the first pick in the draft. But at least with the Raiders, they have had purpose. They have had plan. Lose. With the Jets, they just suck. At number 30, the Arizona Cardinals. Has anyone caught on yet that Jacoby Brissett and Kyler Murray, it hasn't made one bit of difference? In fact, lately, the Arizona Cardinals have looked terrible on defense and on offense. Jacoby Brissett has not looked great the last couple of games. They couldn't even move the ball against the Bengals. I think they might trade Marvin Harrison Jr. Shout out to Trey McBride for his record. The defense of the Cardinals is one of the most underwhelming and disappointing units in the NFL, and I understand they've had injuries, but still, if Jonathan Gannon can't get that defense to above average, he deserves to be fired. And I think 100% they should be looking at a new quarterback. They should be looking at a new staff. They should be starting from scratch this offseason at 100%. They need another year of tanking, and we're good to go. They should trade Kyler Murray, get some draft capital. But I just want everyone to know that their brilliant decision to back Jacoby Brissett has paid off with one win. Kyler Murray still has more wins than Jacoby Brissett this year. Just throwing that out there. At number 29, the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs, we may or may not know that Chris Jones may have or may not have purposely jumped off sides against the Denver Broncos. We are not 100% sure. But if you watched his press conference with the worst acting I have ever seen in my life, I think it's an indication that someone, whether it was Andy Reid, whether it was Patrick Mahomes from the box, whether it was Brittany Mahomes, whether it was Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, probably not him because he's retiring. He doesn't care. Whether it was the Hunt family, one of his smoking hot daughters, I don't know who it was, bro. But Chris Jones decided to jump off sides purposely. You're not going to fool me. The Chiefs are up to their old antics. They're trying to cheat and get into the top 10 of the draft. You're not fooling me by playing some quarterback that I've never heard of and I can't pronounce his name. And now you even got him talking with the frog voice just like Patrick Mahomes. I see you, Chiefs Kingdom. You're not going to fool me here, bro. You don't just simply put Rashee Rice, Trent McDuffie, and everybody, all of your good players on IR. You're not going to fool me. And yet, it's going to be a tankathon, tank bowl that no one has ever seen the likes of. The Raiders, the Chiefs, Week 18. Will the Chiefs try to lose more than the Raiders? That would be an achievement. At number 28, the New York G-Men. Giants fans are talking themselves into Jackson Dart being their savior. Jackson Dart being their franchise quarterback. I've just got one problem, guys. I've got one problem with that idea. And that one problem is that Jackson Dart absolutely sucks. It would make sense. He's young. He's got the white boy swag. He's got his $1 million chain. He's got his Star Wars cosplay, bro. But it's hard to back a quarterback as your future and your franchise when he absolutely sucks. The only thing he does is run headfirst into the defense and get hurt. Speaking of defense, do the Giants even know what that is anymore? Giants fans, how can you even show your face? This used to be a prideful franchise. This used to be a spirited franchise. This used to be a winning football team. And now you're a rival to the Jets as the worst franchise in the NFL. Abdul Carter looks better. Brian Burns is a dog. But you didn't take advantage of that with the worst run defense I've ever seen. So at number 28, the Giants. Number 27, the Cleveland Browns. The Browns won a game this week because the Pittsburgh Steelers were so invested in Myles Garrett not breaking TJ Watt's record that they literally lost the game because of it. Despite Shedeur Sanders throwing not one, but 2 interceptions, and one of the worst interceptions I have ever seen in my life. Also, they have literally no run game. Their O-line is awful. Their receiving core is JV. Their coach is a pansy. Their defense is really good. Denzel Ward is amazing. Aaron Rodgers didn't know that, but now he knows that. Congrats to Cleveland for making the AFC North entertaining for the first time in a long time. Thank you, Cleveland. Okay, at number 26, the Tennessee Titans. You know the NFL absolutely sucks when the Tennessee Titans are at number 26. I really don't even have anything to say about the Titans. I thought they would beat the Saints, found out Tyler Shuck is still that good. Cam Ward has been playing well for about a month now. That's good, but they need to find their next head coach. I will also say this about the Titans. Outside of their secondary, they still have a lot of players healthy, and that's not a good thing because they still are absolutely terrible. So you would think that this team would be a little bit better than they are because they're not even really that injured. But this team's going to suck for a long time. They have the worst ownership in the league. They're at number 26. At number 25, the Washington Commanders. I feel like I say the same thing about the Commanders every week. This became a retirement home for anyone who would seek it. Any old player that was good in 2015 joined the Commanders, tried to go for a Super Bowl push, and it didn't work out. Why? Because they were all good 5-10 years ago. Bobby Wagner, Von Miller, Deebo Samuel, Laramie Tunsil, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, who's on the damn broadcast. He's not even playing. Marshawn Lattimore. They all suck. They're all old. The Commanders, I told you have the worst pass rush in the league. No one listened. I told you your linebackers are slow. No one listened. I told you Lattimore's washed. No one listened. Where are all the Commanders fans that were trolling me before the season, trolling me last season? You went on a miracle run thanks to a miracle rookie quarterback season that was actually kind of overrated. And now all of you are going to sit there and blame Jane Daniels got hurt. Jane Daniels got hurt. Bro, no. It has nothing to do with Jane Daniels got hurt. Your team is ass. It's ass. It's bad. Your running backs suck. The only thing good about your team is your damn offensive line. Really, it's mid. And Terry McLaurin. That's it. You guys got a long way to go to get back to the playoffs. after a season where you went to the NFC Championship. It's embarrassing, bro. At number 24, the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins. You can always count on the Miami Dolphins for winning a meaningless game at home late in the season. The Miami Dolphins roughly escorting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right out of the club and right out of the playoffs. Get out of here, Baker. Quinn Ewers got his first NFL win. I'm not buying him as a future franchise quarterback, but I do think he could be a backup. He's got a decent arm. Seems like a good kid. The offensive line has been steady in the run game, but not great in the pass game. It does appear Mike McDaniel is going to remain their coach. I'm looking forward to see what direction he goes with the quarterback position. Malik Willis is available. Kyler Murray could be available. I think both of those guys would be extremely interesting for Mike McDaniel, especially with the way that he wants to operate his run game. Will Tyreek Hill return? Probably not. Jalen Waddle's hurt again. I'm not surprised. He's made of glass. Darren Waller actually could still play football. The defense, I thought, they played admirably. They do need to add a heck of a lot of players, talent-wise, in the offseason. I could see them being mediocre next year, depending on what they do at quarterback, but we damn sure know that Tua turned the ball over has never been the answer, and I told you that for like 8 years now. I don't know how many years Tua's been in the NFL, but it feels like it's been 8. I think it's really been like 5, but Miami's at number 24. At number 23, the Tampa Bay Bucks. Yes, I still rank the Bucks above the Dolphins. I guess they're fighting for something. And to be honest, in this year in the NFL, if the Bucks somehow made the playoffs, beat the Panthers, and won a playoff game, would it even be that surprising? Given the way the NFL is going, especially if they play the Seattle Sam Darnold shithawks. We'll see, but Tampa Bay beat them already once. Maybe they could do it again. But the thing is about Tampa Bay, guys, I don't know if you know this, but they can't win a game. Why can't they win a game? Well, their team is not good at anything. They don't block. Baker is drunk. He's throwing the ball to the other team. He's fumbling the ball. He's breaking a sack and then fumbling the ball. They're not stopping the run like they used to. They don't stop the pass and never have. They don't have a pass rush. What does Todd Bowles even do? How does this guy still have a job? I feel bad for Mike Evans. The Bucks are useless. If they make the playoffs, I like the Bucks, but I will be depressed if they make the playoffs because this team absolutely stinks. They don't deserve to be anywhere near the playoffs, and I don't want to put their fan base through a 50-20 loss. At number 22, the Indianapolis Colts. Well, the Phillip Rivers experiment was fun while it lasted. It at least provided some spark to bad teams. And this is what I like about the NFL near this time of the year. I appreciate when bad teams recognize that they're bad, and then they just do anything they possibly can to sell tickets and be entertaining. That's why I think, personally, that Drew Lock and Jameis Winston should always be able to play in December. Because there should at least be one team in the NFL that needs to be entertaining and sell tickets, and that's how you sell tickets, baby. But Phillip Rivers, he sells tickets too. He also makes babies. He's really good at that. But the Indianapolis Colts, their O-line's falling apart. Their defense has always been bend but don't break, and it's been breaking, especially against the 49ers. They gave an admirable effort against Jacksonville, a good team that I think is a top 3 AFC contender. It was a good effort. I give them credit. Steichen, Lou Anarumo, I think we'll see what they are next year. I'm not sure if I can really count on Daniel Jones, and I wonder where the Colts stand with Daniel Jones as their future franchise quarterback. But they went all in with Sauce Gardner, and that paid off for a what? Basically them becoming the Jets. So they're at number 22. At number 21, the New Orleans Saints. Tyler Shuck is Rookie of the Year. It's official, jabronis. I was one of the few believers in Tyler Shuck. Everybody said in my chat he's scared of his own shadow, Mitch. You don't know what you're talking about. He's too old, Mitch. You don't know what you're talking about. Imagine the Giants fans if they had Tyler Shuck. they would be creaming themselves right now. There's an argument that he should have went first in the draft. Meanwhile, we got Jermari flaunting his stuff every week in my live chat. Mitch, all he does, he comes in my live chat, bro. He just says, Mitch. And I'm like, yeah, Jermari, I know you want to talk about Tyler Shuck. Just say something, dude. Don't just sit there like a jabroni. Say something. I know you want to say it, Jermari. Just say it. All right? But I think they've got something with Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley. Two absolute nerds, but they're decent at coaching. They've got to build their defense up. They've got to get a little bit more support on the O-line for Tyler Shuck. But given the way the NFC South is playing, if the Saints were in the playoffs instead of the Bucs or the Panthers, would it make a difference? No. In fact, it might be more entertaining. Might be a better storyline. At number 20, the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are at 20. I think this is going to be a legitimate NFC contender next year. I like Schottenheimer as a coach. I think he's got just enough old school and new school in his nature. He seems like a good players coach. Dak Prescott is playing at his peak and his prime, and I think that will carry over into next year. As long as they can keep Pickens head on straight and stay out of trouble, Pickens and Lamb will be dominant again next year. They found a running back in Javonte Williams, and they shouldn't be letting him go anytime soon. Their offensive line is young and will only get better. They got a tight end who they have long-term in Ferguson. Their defense does need plenty of work, but they've got Quinnen Williams and Odigizua signed up in the interior. They could use another pass rusher, but Enzaraku could be a guy for the future. They will have a healthy Overshown in the middle. So it really comes down to, can they find one or two cornerbacks? They let go of Trayvon Diggs. I think that's a smart decision that they should have made a long time ago. They might need to upgrade their speed and range at safety. And personally, I think they should get a new defensive coordinator with a little bit more creativity. We'll see what they do. But I think Dallas is going to be a legitimate NFC team next year that I would watch out for. And I will certainly be taking all of their overs, their win total overs, their division. I think they'll win the division next year. I'm not even joking. I got them at number 20. At number 19, the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are a weird team because they're somewhat a younger team that is probably going to win their division. And honestly, like, because guys, remember, the Panthers could lose to the Bucs, and if the Falcons beat the Saints, the Panthers are in. Just throwing that out there. I'm just throwing that out there. But the Carolina Panthers, I mean, honestly, would the Saints not just throw the game? I mean, the Saints hate the Bucs more than Singh hates Joe Burrow. Like, will the Saints just throw the game against the Falcons and the Panthers could get in the playoffs? Just throwing that out there. But the Panthers are at number 19, and where I was going with this is, the Panthers are a rare younger team that I honestly have no faith in them being better next year than this year. I think the Falcons have a more talented roster. I think the Saints have a better quarterback situation. I don't love the Panthers coaching. I think it's fairly average. I would make an argument that the Bucs are old, but I would say they have the better quarterback. And they probably need a new head coach. And with the Bucs, I feel like as soon as they get a new head coach, they're going to be instantly upgraded. But the Carolina Panthers, I would rather see them in the playoffs this year, partly because I don't think they're getting back anytime soon. And I do think they have proven to be more competitive down the stretch than Tampa Bay. At least they beat the Rams and they beat the Packers and they showed up in these games against other good teams. But if they don't beat the Bucs and somehow make the playoffs, I mean, that's just going to be laughable. Like, it's going to be hilarious. At number 18, the Vikings. I would prefer the Vikings in the playoffs over the Panthers because of Brian Flores. And it's funny, I've heard not once but twice that Brian Flores could become the Cowboys defensive coordinator. And I was just wondering, like, what? Like, isn't he going to stay in Minnesota? Like, unless Jerry Jones gives him a call and offers him something he can't refuse, is Brian Flores a free agent? Like, why are people saying this? I'm kind of confused. If anyone can help me, let me know. But I'll say this. If the Vikings didn't have Brian Flores, I wonder what their record would be. How many games this year has Brian Flores won the Vikings? Like, honestly. 6? Like, how many games has he won the Vikings this year? How many games has the Vikings offense won them? I'm starting to question Kevin O'Connell a little bit. A little bit. And is JJ McCarthy the guy? I personally don't think so. Not because he doesn't have talent, but because he's so fragile. And honestly, his talent is average. I feel like you could find smarter. You could find more consistent. You could find more accurate. Sure, he's still young and could develop, but he's fragile. He's not getting those reps. I wonder if the Vikings should think about trading Justin Jefferson. The Vikings are going to have a very fascinating offseason depending on what happens. At number 17, the Cincinnati Bengals. I wish the Bengals were in the playoffs because at least they score points. I'd rather that than Pittsburgh and probably even Baltimore. I do think Baltimore is a more well-rounded team. But Lamar is probably not even going to be their quarterback. So it's going to be Snoop Doggy Dogg. But I'd rather have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase than even the great Snoop. I would. But, the Bengals, too little, too late. We've seen this once before. I still think the Bengals, they're cheap ass. They should be firing Zach Taylor. They should be going all in on their defense this offseason. And they shouldn't even blink on their offense. They shouldn't even care. Not even a single sentence out of their mouths should be brought to their offense. It should be defense, defense, defense. All their money, all their draft picks, defense. That's it. That's the only way to do it. At number 17, the Bengals. I wish they were in the playoffs. Number 16, the Falcons. The Falcons were never a bad team. They're actually a top half talented team, as I projected before the year. But they have a Jabroni of the Year candidate as their head coach. They have Zach Robinson as their OC, who is maybe the most mid OC I've ever seen in my life. And their best coach is a former Jets coach. That's kind of embarrassing. But I do wonder, guys, if Kirk Cousins was the starter of the Falcons all year, would they not be in the playoffs right now? I'm just going to throw that out there to you guys real quick. Drake London's not even healthy and they're beating the Rams. And Bijan Robinson is unbelievable. Bijan Robinson might be the best running back I've ever seen to never even get a sniff of an Offensive Player of the Year award this year. The way that he's moving out there, I've never seen anything like it. He's skiing on the field. He's skating. It's unreal. And Kyle Pitts came alive. I would still let him walk probably if I were the Falcons. I'm not counting on that consistency. Their O-line too, I'm starting to wonder what the longevity is here. They're probably going to have to rebuild. But they got some guys in this draft class, man. Pierce, Walker, Watts. Unbelievable. Bowman. I like Bowman. Man, Caden Ellis is underrated. Not a draft pick, but underrated. AJ Terrell had a great game against the Rams. This defense could be really good next year. They got to get their defensive line a little bit beefed up against the run. Maybe add another corner, but Jesse Bates is still balling. The Falcons could be real next year, but I don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. Number 15, the Lions. The Lions feel like a team that is going to plummet next season. They do have a lot of talent, individually speaking, but it doesn't feel like they have a good plan on how to use them moving forward. I think we've seen the best from Jared Goff's career at this point. I still think that they need to improve their offensive line and their defensive line entering next year. And it's the same issues we kind of knew coming into the year. The interior O-line, the edge rusher beyond Aiden Hutchinson. By the way, Hutchinson's kind of had a down year this year, coming off a major injury. He's not the game record that he was last year. And I think he demands too much attention. Nobody else is respectable as a pass rusher. Again, they have similar issues. they get injured in the secondary. They play too much man coverage. They're too simplistic. They're too predictable on offense and defense. Everyone knows how to attack Jared Goff at this rate. And I wonder if Dan Campbell is smart enough or savvy enough to have a curveball. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I think St. Brown's a great player, and I obviously think Jameson is explosive as anyone in the league. And they're going to be a fun team, I think, for the next year or two, but I don't see them being better than Chicago. I don't know if they're going to be better than Green Bay. I don't think so. So I look at the Lions as like a borderline playoff team, kind of where they're at the next like 2 years. I think they might have to pivot off of Jared Goff. Because I think the problem with Dan Campbell right now with Jared Goff is not only is their defense they need to get their defense going, but Goff is just too predictable to how you game plan for him. Like Brian Flores basically sent the same blitz like 50 times. So like without Ben Johnson there to protect him, Jared Goff might be, you might have to give him, like Goff works with really creative offensive coordinators, but as soon as you know how to pressure him, he's in trouble. And I don't think Dan Campbell or this staff currently has the answers of how to make Jared Goff the MVP caliber quarterback play that they were getting out of him, even if he wasn't really an MVP caliber quarterback. At number 14, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, I don't know. Like, are they the 14th best team? I don't know. But they're going to the playoffs, maybe, if they can beat the Ravens. I personally think they won't beat the Ravens, but we'll see. They are 3.5-point underdogs. It is at home. They've beat the Ravens already this year. But part of the reason Pittsburgh isn't maybe going to go to the playoffs is because they've screwed themselves over. DK Metcalf suspended. They lost to the Cleveland frickin' Browns because they were too invested on blocking Myles Garrett than winning the game. Aaron Rodgers decided to throw the ball 3 straight times with the division on the line at Denzel Ward like an absolute jackass. And I don't know, like Pittsburgh, I could care less. Like their defense is improving, but they're a boring team. Mike Tomlin, I'm not a fan of. I don't think he's one of the most overrated coaches in NFL history, in my opinion. They don't have weapons. Metcalf suspended. I like their running backs, but that's about it. Their tight ends are fun, but they're not like elite. It's not like Kittle's out there, McBride. And then defensively, they're not as good as they used to be. And TJ Watt's hurt. Like, this team is a walking L the next, no matter what. Like, first round, they're going to be out. Even if they make it. Like, it's, at least with Baltimore, you can kind of like talk yourself into them. With Pittsburgh, it's like, no. No, this team needs a miracle to beat a playoff team. At number 13, the Chargers. A team that's not even healthy and destroyed Pittsburgh. Like, the Chargers are, to me, are not a playoff team in their current state. Like, maybe in this league, they're the worst playoff team imaginable. Like, the Chargers are closer to the Falcons than they are to the Patriots, let's just say. That's how I feel about the Chargers. Like, their offensive line is a travesty. A travesty. They could have beaten the Texans if not for Cameron Dicker having the worst game of his career, so I will give them credit for that. But that was mostly on the back of the Texans' offense being terrible and the Chargers' passing defense being good and kind of keeping them in it. I do think the Chargers do have, like, a toughness. They do have Herbert, who's sensational. And I think you can make an argument that Herbert is the fourth best quarterback in football. Some people are like, he should be MVP. I think that's outrageous. But fourth best, like behind May, Stafford, and Allen, I think Herbert being fourth or in that top 5, I think is very fair. But because he just has to overcome so much on a weekly basis and the way he's been playing, I thought he played well against the Texans. But he's just under so much pressure. It feels like he's pressured every play. And it's just not a sustainable way to win in the playoffs. And their run game is mediocre. Their weapons are good, but not great. Their defense is really good in pass coverage, but their run defense is very susceptible. I just think against more complete teams, especially if they have to play outdoors and in the cold, they're not built for that. So it's going to be a tough playoff to watch if you're a Charger fan, and I think you know what's going to happen. At number 12, the Packers. The Packers feel like another fraud here. After facing the Ravens and being dismantled and overpowered and bullied by Baltimore, I think you have to say the Packers, their run is over. Their time is done for this year. And it's just too much to overcome when you lose offensive and defensive player that are fundamental to the way you want to play and the way that you can win. When you lose Tucker Kraft on offense and what he does as a blocker, as a yards after catch guy, as a receiver, and then you lose Micah Parsons, your one-man pass rush. You lose then also complementary players that may or may not come back. Devontae Wyatt, who's a really underrated D tackle. And then Zach Tom, who might be your best offensive lineman. Elton Jenkins, who might be your best offensive lineman. It's just too much to overcome if you're the Packers. I think the interesting thing about the Packers will be they're probably going to let go of Malik Willis. He's probably going to sign as a free agent or he's going to get traded or something. Jordan Love, I wonder, honestly, who's better? I sometimes I wonder that because I'm like, Malik Willis brings so much to the run game that Jordan Love doesn't offer. Jordan Love's a better passer. He's a more explosive passer. And I think if we were to see a season of each in the offense, I think teams would figure out Malik a little bit more. But Malik has played really well. He's very creative. He's elusive. He's powerful as a runner. He's got a great arm. And he's been more accurate than I would have thought. And he's a legitimate starter as a backup. In a way that even Mac Jones isn't. Mac Jones is a really good system guy, but Malik feels like he could carry an offense, as a runner, as a thrower. I think the best development for the Packers this year has maybe been that Christian Watson has had a really good wide receiver one type of season. Outside of that, Jacobs doesn't look like the same player. The O-line has regressed. There's question about Matt LaFleur, how good really, he's good, but is he great? He gets a 7 seed every year at this rate. Love has been injured on and off. The defense has been good, but still flawed. I think the Packers next year could be a really good team if they can add some pieces to the secondary, be healthy on the defensive front, and maybe get healthy on the offense. But I don't see it this year with the Packers. I feel similar about the Packers and the Chargers where it's two teams that I could buy into next year with all their pieces. But right now, I don't see it in their current state. At number 11, Baltimore, who beat the Packers pretty handily. And this is with Snoop Huntley or Lamar Jackson. Guys, Snoop Huntley is the only quarterback for the Ravens to beat two teams above 500. He beat the Packers and he beat the Bears. Now, maybe that's part of the formula about how Baltimore can play right now. And Derrick Henry has become, again, down the stretch here, an absolute monster. He was against the Patriots. People will forget that. And then he was against the Packers, absolutely sensational. And Snoop is a good backup for what they want to do. He's accurate. He makes the right decisions. He runs well. He's experienced. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's kind of Tyrod Taylor-esque, if that makes sense. He's very much like a Tyrod Taylor. He's not explosive, and he doesn't make a lot of downfield throws, but he doesn't make mistakes, and he can run. And he gives a certain floor to the offense. And then with Zay Flowers, he can make some plays, but the thing with Baltimore that's I'm frustrated by with their offense is no one other than Zay in the passing game is dangerous. DeAndre Hopkins might make a ridiculous one-hand catch every 1 out of 10 plays. Bateman's invisible. Isaiah Likely is not used properly, and Mark Andrews is washed. I don't know why they signed him. The O-line has played well the last 2 weeks. That's promising. The defensive line, I think, is playing really well against the run, but not against the pass. Their secondary is playing well, but I wouldn't say it's playing great. I kind of think they're one of the more flawed teams that could make the playoffs, but I still buy them more as a playoff threat than Pittsburgh because I think their defense is more consistent in pass coverage. They're dominant against the run, and I would say that their Derrick Henry formula can give certain teams fits. So at number 11, Baltimore. At number 10, Chicago. Chicago really impressed me and you guys know how I've been talking about Caleb all year. That was the best game I've ever seen Caleb play. And the reason for that is it was on the road against a very good team with an excellent offense that was putting pressure on Caleb all game. The Niners defense is not good, but it is well coached. It's in a tough atmosphere, a team and a fan base that knows they can get the number 1 seed. And Caleb had to win the game. The Bears were not running the ball. They didn't even really attempt to run the ball that much because the Niners were stopping it pretty well. Caleb had to make the throws. And sure, he missed a couple. The DJ Moore crossing route could have been a touchdown. You could make an argument about the final play. He did throw a couple bad balls, but that's going to happen with him. He still also made 3 or 4 incredible throws. He made some nice timely scrambles. He seemed to pick up the blitzes really well and know where to go with the ball. And it just felt like the most calculated and mature game I've seen from Caleb Williams as a pro. I was extremely impressed by Luther Burden, as I've been all year since seeing him in the NFL. Their run game is awesome. I felt like the Niners kind of sold out to stop it, and they kind of forced Caleb to beat them, and he kind of did almost. DJ Moore needs to be bigger in those moments, in those games. I know he was sick, but still, like, one catch in the game is not good enough. Defensively, they're just not there right now. I think they could win a playoff game, but I don't know if, like, they might even win 2, like, depending on the matchups. They could beat the Packers given the current state of the Packers, but it's not going to be easy. I could see the Packers beating them too. And then on the others, the second round, if they played Philly at home, who they've already beat, if their defense could somehow play well in that game against a really bad inconsistent Eagles offense, then they've got a good chance. It's tough to beat the Eagles twice. It would have to be those type of matchups. I think if they were to play anyone in the NFC West, I'd probably favor those 3 teams. So I think Chicago has really good coaching. The quarterback's playing well at the right time. Their defense is opportunistic and they play hard, but they're just not that good, especially at the defensive front. I don't see them going to the Super Bowl. I could see them going as far as the NFC Championship, but they would feel like more closer to the Commanders than they would the Lions 2 years ago, where it's like, this team probably shouldn't be here. The Lions 2 years ago were like a real NFC Championship caliber team. You know what I'm saying? So at number 10, the Bears. At number 9, the Texans. The Texans are here because of their defense. I still felt like they deserve to beat the Chargers because of how their offense played early and how their defense thoroughly dominated Justin Herbert and the offensive line of the Chargers. Absolutely. But at the same time, they easily could have lost the game. Like, Herbert throws the ball off of Gadsden's hands for a pick at the 1-yard line or whatever, and then they missed 2 kicks that would have won them the game. So, like, the Texans kind of got lucky, but that's how the Texans are going to have to win and how they're going to have to play the entirety of the playoffs. And that's part of the reason I don't see them going to the Super Bowl. Like, some other people are like, oh, the Texans defense is so good they could win the Super Bowl this year. I just think their offense, their offensive line, and their quarterback are too inconsistent. I do find myself lower on CJ Stroud than a lot of people at this point, and I was a big CJ Stroud guy once upon a time, but he just makes some mistakes that he can't. This, in order to win this style of ball, you can't make these egregious mistakes, and you have to take advantage of the plays that are there. And sometimes he just misses some throws. Sometimes he makes a bad throw for an interception, and that's what kills a defensive-led team, is when you keep giving offenses chances. So at number 9, the Texans have an absolutely phenomenal best defense in football. They could win against anyone, but at the same time, can they win 3 or 4 games in a row? Probably not. At number 8, Denver. Now, the difference between Denver and Houston to me, I think, is slightly their coaching. Sean Payton, to me, I have more trust in a big game than DeMeco. As much as I like DeMeco, it still feels like the offensive side of the ball for the Texans does not quite have the advantage of some other teams. And then also, I would say that the home field is actually a factor in this ranking. So Denver is very likely to be the number 1 seed. Playing at Mile High is an inherent advantage. They can play in the cold. I do think that their offensive line is good, unlike the Texans, and it is steady. And Bo Nix has proven to play well in the fourth quarter this year, unlike CJ Stroud. So that's the difference to me. But the Texans do have the better defense, the more consistent defense, and the defense that's playing better at the right time. But Denver's offense, I think, is a little bit more explosive, and they've shown that throughout the year. So it's pretty even between Denver and Houston, but Denver has a home field advantage, slight coaching edge, offensive line edge. So there are some edges for Denver that I like. But that being said, I could see Denver getting to the Super Bowl, but I can't see Denver winning the Super Bowl. I know that sounds weird, but even if they were to be in the Super Bowl and you told me, Mitch, the Broncos are going to be in the Super Bowl, I'd still say, who are they playing? I'm picking that team. That's how I feel about Denver. It's weird. But yeah, I think they could get there because the AFC is very winnable and home field could make a major difference. But at the same time, I don't know if they would be convincing. And I could also see them losing the first game they play. So that's Denver for me. At number 7, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills, they still have Josh Allen, even though he missed that pass egregiously. And that may end up hurting them in the playoffs. If the Bills have to go to Jacksonville, that's a significantly tougher matchup than playing Pittsburgh or Baltimore, in my opinion, because Baltimore probably will have Snoop Huntley. And Pittsburgh, is Pittsburgh, and Buffalo's beat the shit out of them multiple times. Some Bills fans want to make it out to be that they're trying to avoid Baltimore, but I don't. They beat them 2 years in a row. I don't really see that. I think they're just frustrating, this Bills team. The weird thing about Buffalo is it's kind of set up for them to be a wild card team and make a run, but the problem is they're just not consistent enough on either side of the ball. Like, they do have the quarterback, they do have the experience, and honestly, their pass defense is good. And a lot of the teams that they'll play in the AFC don't have good running games. Like the Chargers. The Patriots are mediocre running the ball, right? The Steelers, like the Broncos, meh. Like the Texans, meh. Like the run game, the severe weakness of the Bills is run defense. And no one but maybe Jacksonville has like an above average running game. And that might be the team they play in the first round. And then New England can hit some home runs, but it's not consistent, right? And they're very familiar with New England, right? So there's that part. But then at the same time, like when Brandon Cooks is your go-to number one receiver, like that's a problem. Like you can't win in the playoffs if Brandon Cooks at 35 is your number one receiver. And I know Dalton Kincaid didn't play, but still, like, so the Bills are so weird. Yes, I could see them going to the Super Bowl. I don't know if I can see them winning though. I just think that, I don't know, man, like out of the top NFC teams, I think the Bills' weaponry is just going to kill them. I think it's going to kill them. I'm at the point where it's not even about the defense to me. It's about the weaponry. Like, I just think they're not going to be able to get it done with these receivers. At number 6, the Eagles. The Eagles have an elite defense, and I think it's probably the second best defense in the league when Jalen Carter is healthy. And Vic Fangio is brilliant, but their offense is so bad at times. It's incredible. And that's why I look at Philly as a team that I wouldn't necessarily want to play. I wouldn't sign up to play Philly in Philly. But at the same time, I think that one week they might win and the next week they might get blown out. Like, that's the way that I feel about Philly, where sure, could they beat the Rams in the first round? Yeah, they've done, they beat the Rams last year in the playoffs. They beat the Rams earlier this year. They beat the Rams in the regular season. And the Rams might be the favorite in the NFC still, according to Vegas, which I don't know about that. But still, could they beat the Niners and like maybe their offense actually performs well against the Niners defense? Yeah, it's possible. At the same time, could they lose to the Rams by 20 because their offense can't move the ball? Yeah. Could the Niners put up 30 against them and be the only team to do that in the league? Possibly. And could the Eagles keep up? Probably not. So like I could see all different game situations because the Eagles are very talented on offense, but they're just not good. It's like a weird contraption where it's like, you should be able to see this happening, but at the same time, like, would it? Will it? Probably not. So that's why I feel like with Philly this year, it's like, it's waiting to happen. It's more of a matter of like, when is it going to happen with them? They might be able to beat a team like they beat Detroit or Green Bay or Buffalo 13-10, right? Like that type of game. At the same time, they could lose like they lost to one of these other teams that they've lost to this year, like the Bears. So I don't know. It's weird. Number 5, Jacksonville. Jacksonville I believe in because I think they're a fairly complete team. I don't know if they would win the Super Bowl, but I could see a world where they get there. I think they would probably be outmatched in the Super Bowl, not in terms of they would get destroyed, But in terms of like experience, big game moment, all that sort of stuff. That being said, Jacksonville has their biggest flaw is their pass defense. They match up well with Denver. I think they match up well with Buffalo. I know they match up well with the Chargers. I feel like they would beat the Ravens or the Steelers. And really, I think their most difficult matchup is the Patriots. So it would come down to whether or not they could go to the cold, go to Gillette, and win. And if they could slow down Drake May. That is, to me, their most difficult matchup in the AFC. But when you actually break down Jacksonville and their matchups in the AFC, it's like, I could see how they could get out of this conference. They've beaten the Texans once. They've lost to the Texans once. Maybe they could beat them. Maybe they lose to them. That's a little bit of a toss-up because it's a divisional game. But Jacksonville, it's like, that's why I have them at 5, where it's like, they've just beat Denver. They're hot. Trevor's playing well. They're well coached. But they're not great on offense or defense. I do think they're a little overrated on defense. That's why I have them at 5. At number 4, the Rams. The Rams are not the best team at this point. I think that's what we've learned over the last few weeks. And one thing I've consistently been saying, even when I'm ranking the Rams first, is this team is weird. They keep losing games they shouldn't lose. They keep losing games in one-score games. Every time a game is close this year, I feel like the other team is going to beat the Rams. Do you guys not feel the same way? Like, it feels like Niners-Rams. Game was close. Rams didn't make the plays. Niners did. Seahawks-Rams. Game was close. They fluked it off in the first game because of all the turnovers. Second game, Seahawks made more plays in the end. Eagles-Rams. Eagles came back. Game was close. Rams choked. Didn't make the plays. Falcons-Rams. It got extremely close. Falcons still made more plays, and they're not even a good team. You go down the list of games, and it's like the Rams kind of have to blow teams out, feels like, right now, the way they're playing. Their defense, I've been saying for a long time, they're super overrated. Advanced metrics have them in the top 10. The middle of the field is vacated. Their coverage is not good. They're slow. Their pass rush, if it doesn't get there, they are not a good defense. Period. Their corners are not good. They only play zone coverage. Their offense, they need Devontae Adams healthy because without him, they're way too Puka reliant. Their run game is good, but their running backs are not special. And that's what worries me. Stafford is great, but when Stafford doesn't play great, they're not a good team. Even when Stafford plays average, they're a susceptible team. So they're still among the favorites, but I feel like people look at the Rams as a more complete team than the Niners or the Seahawks or the Patriots. And I'm just like, I don't see that. I don't know how you could see that. And the way they're playing after Thanksgiving is not inspiring. At number 3, Seattle. Seattle is great on defense, but overrated on offense right now. They have not played well on offense in quite a while. This game against San Francisco is going to be a test of how great is Seattle's defense, how great is San Fran's offense. Because I honestly could see Seattle moving the ball against San Fran. I could honestly see them not moving the ball against San Fran. I could see either way. I could see maybe a little bit of a fluctuation of like up and down. Like maybe there's a couple of drives where they score touchdowns, a couple of drives where they go 3 and out. But the problem with playing a team like San Francisco this week, when you're a team like Seattle is, if you don't wake up until halftime, like they've been doing every single week, you're going to get pounded. The score is going to be like 21-3, and you're not going to win. It's going to be over. Like, that's the problem I have with this potential matchup or potential matchups in the playoffs. If they have a rematch with the Rams, I don't trust Sam Darnold. I feel like he turns it over too much. The O-line is kind of shaky. The run game isn't reliable. Like, you think about the Panthers game. It was 3-3 until like halftime, the third quarter. The Rams game, they fell down, deep into that game. And Rashid Shaheed's punt return set them off. They were tight with the Phillip Rivers Colts fresh off of a 5-year hiatus. Falcons Seahawks at halftime was like a game. It was like a one-score game. And that looks like an impressive win because they ended up winning 37-9, but it was 6-6 at halftime. So if a team like Seattle keeps playing this way in the first half on offense, and they play San Francisco that exact same way, they're going to get destroyed. They're going to get destroyed. So at number 3, Seattle. At number 2, New England. I nearly put them number 1, but now this Stephon Diggs news came out, and I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know if Stephon Diggs, I hope for the best. I hope that he's not guilty, and I hope everything works out for the Patriots. It's obviously awful news. If you haven't looked into it, I'm not going to describe it, but look into it yourself. Do your research. The Patriots might be the most complete team in the league. In fact, I think they're the most complete team in the league. I think they are the team with the least amount of flaws. And this is speaking to the completely healthy Patriots. Milton Williams, Robert Spillane, Will Campbell, all expected to be back by the wild card round. They have an elite quarterback, which only a couple teams in the NFL right now have in the playoffs. When you look at the playoffs, I think Stafford is elite, Allen is elite, May is elite. You could make an argument that Herbert and Purdy are elite, but like the way they're playing at this moment, Trevor Lawrence, I guess, is playing well, but May is like levels above, it feels like, most of these quarterbacks right now. Nobody is playing as well as him except for really Purdy in the NFL. The offensive line is objectively good. That's something that people thought would be a flaw. Their offense is objectively very good. Their run game has greatly improved. Now they're closer to mediocre than bottom of the league. They have a home run threat in Travion Henderson. They have a nice dual threat in Ramondre. They've got multiple tight ends. They've got a plethora of receivers who can make plays. They've got speed. They're the number 1 explosive offense in the NFL because of Drake May. Defensively, when Milton plays and Tonga plays, their run defense is really good. Their pass rush is much better when Milton Williams plays alongside Christian Barmore. Their secondary can play man. It can play zone. They are not a great defense, but they're certainly not bad by any means. And they're a little bit bend but don't break-ish, but they're better than the Niners defense. I would argue right now they're better than the Rams defense. I would make an argument that, they're probably better than Buffalo's defense. They're not the Texans, they're not the Eagles, they're not the Seahawks, but their offense is far better than those teams. So it's kind of like the Patriots, they're not some generational team, but when you really look at it, good coaching, good defense, great offense, great quarterback. It's like, yeah, I could see how this team would win the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? Maybe in the Super Bowl or one of these games, it's not going to be easy for the Patriots. All their games are probably going to be close in the playoffs. But this team's been good in close games. This team has proven they can come back now. This team has proven they can play from ahead. I don't know. There's just, with Drake May right now, I don't know how you can really fade this team at this point. At number 1, the Niners. Now, I think the Niners are number 1 partly just like a feeling, man. This team has a feeling of destiny. This team has a feeling of something special. This team has a feeling of it's meant to be. Although the defense is extremely flawed and frustrating as somebody that roots for the Niners regularly, it's still a team that I think their coaching is so good to an absurd level that in a field right now where we don't know who is going to win, and a lot of people say that's because the quarterback play and stuff, why not just take the best guy in the NFL, and that's Kyle Shanahan. And the way that his quarterback's playing, how could you fade him? You know what I'm saying? If they might be able to score 30 points a game in the playoffs. If they play at home and it's good weather, I don't know, even against the teams that can hold them, The Texans. The Texans don't have an offense. The Eagles don't have an offense. The Seahawks don't have an offense. The Seahawks are mediocre on offense, I would say. But the defense is Denver, mediocre offense. And Denver, I don't know if they would hold the Niners. Teams that could hold the Niners to 24 or 27, I don't think that their offense could match, even against the Niners defense. Because the Niners are really good against the run. And when Renardo Green comes back, they've got a couple corners that they can man up, and Saleh can do some things. And Saleh's good. He's a good coach. They got some stops in that game. Guys, and I broke this down in the recap. It's like, if Purdy doesn't throw a pick six on the first play, without George Kittle, Trent Williams, never mind Nick Bosa, and Fred Warner could return for the playoffs, which would be a huge jolt for this team. And that might make their defense closer to mediocre if he does return and be serviceable. If that doesn't happen, if they don't throw a pick six, it's 28-14 at halftime, and the game's already over. It doesn't even become like a shootout. It's already over. Like, that's how the Niners feel right now, where it's like, even if you get within a touchdown, it's like they're going to score again. They're going to score again. Even if you hold them to a field goal, it's like, well, you're down 10 again. You're down 14. You got within 7, but it's like, now it's 14. Now it's, that's how it kind of feels. Like, if the Niners are playing their game on offense and they from the jump are on it, and it feels like even if they play from behind, where it's like the team gets up 7-0, well, they're going to go down, they're going to score 7-7. Or it's 14-0 somehow, let's just say. If they just get one turnover or one big play on defense, it's like the game could completely change. So the way that Kyle's calling plays, the way that McCaffrey is playing in the pass and the run game right now, the way they're running the ball, the way their O-line is playing, the way that Ricky looks, the way that Jawan looks, the way that Kittle looks. Hopefully Kittle and Trent are healthy. Defensively, if they keep stopping the run and they can just get some timely third down stops. There was even moments in that game against the Bears where it was this close to becoming a blowout. Like, it was this close. Like, if the Niners can just get a 3rd and 8 stop, or like if Caleb doesn't roll to the left on 3rd and 9 and throw an absolute laser that pretty much no one else can throw on the sidelines to Luther Burden, then that's another stop. They get the ball back and then they score again. That's how close the Niners are to blowing every team out. They kind of feel like the Falcons in 2016. And they have a little bit of like a 2017 Eagles blend of like, this team kind of feels like destiny type deal. So at number 1, the Niners. There it is, my power rankings for week 18, the last week of the NFL regular season. Thanks for watching. Peace. Gronk, spike the like button.